What's up, folks? Welcome to another episode of the 10 Horse Monty YouTube channel. And before we get started, if you appreciate this content, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. It's a great way to show the content creators that you appreciate what they're doing. Today, we're going to talk about what I feel is one of the most underutilized soft plastic baits, and it's the tube. The tube was really popular years ago, and you just don't hear much about it. There's so many new shapes and sizes out there on the market, and the tube just kind of falls on the wayside, which is one of the reasons that I really like it. First time I heard about the tube as a kid was the Gets It. The Gets It was really popular, I believe, in the 80s. Guido Hibden kind of put the tube on the map for me, and I think the Gets It is still in production today, but the Gets It was like a smaller tube. If I remember right, it was like a 2 3/4, maybe 3-inch, smaller, kind of thinner profile tube, more of a finesse type of tube. And then the tube kind of went away. You didn't hear much about it. And then along comes Denny Brauer. Denny Brauer had a lot of success fishing the elites and the FLW. Well, it wasn't even elites, but fishing Bassmaster and then FLW with the flipping tube. He kind of put the black neon color, which is the black with the red fleck, on the map in dirty water. Had a lot of success with that. And it's still a technique that really works great. It works great behind, if you're going down the bank and somebody's fishing a lot of the more traditional plastics, it definitely will pick up bites that other baits will not. Oop, went down on it. Come on, baby. Got him. Stupid tube. That's a big one. Oh, yeah. That's a good one. That's a good one. You know, I've been out here playing around with these fish, trying to figure out what the heck they want to bite on. Up. Oh yeah. That's a tank. That's a tank. About ripped the rod on right here. Come on, buddy. Gotcha. There we go. That crocodile tube down the gullet. Son, that's a good one there. That is a good one there. Just playing around out on these points, man. Just playing around. Solid fish. Now, there's a lot of ways to fish a tube, but I'm going to talk about probably the two most useful ways, and there's a little sneaky way that I'll probably show you later on in a different video. Kind of experimenting around with it to see if it works. It used to work, and I'm trying it again, so a little teaser. But the first is just the traditional Texas rig. You know, I went through a lot of tubes in the years, and the tube that I've been using the last couple of years is made by a crocodile. It's just a 4-inch tube. Let's talk about the anatomy of the tube first. Why this? Well, first is the profile. If you look at that profile, it's kind of short and stubby. It's got a little bit of girth to it, and you know, girth is good in certain situations, but it's like, I want to call it like Mr. Squidward, because it looks like a little baby squid. It's got these little tentacles, and think of these tentacles as kind of a rubber skirt, like a skirt on the jig. That's kind of how these are. They have a lot of action when they're down there in the water. The tube lands like this. They kind of do all this with a little bit of current. They're really creating a lot of fish drawing attraction. It's hollow in the middle. It's got a hollow cavity. And this causes it to kind of spiral and to glide. And there's a lot of times where when this tube hits, there'll be air bubble. There'll be air inside of the cavity. And as it tips up, you get a little bloop, little air bubble. And that's another way that attracts the fish. But it's got that profile. It's finessey, but it's still meaty. And it catches a lot of good fish.
There he is. That stupid live scope. Fish dumped it. Bait fuel? I don't know. Maybe it helped. Come here. Come here. These fish are rotty, man. Come here. Nice fish. Nice fish. There we go. Texas rig tube. Look at that. Got him right where you're supposed to get him. Look how fat that little sucker is. Yeah, I was sitting there staring at that live scope, man. All of a sudden my line jumped. I tell you what, you don't need a live scope to catch fish, I'll tell you that, but it is nice to look around. Sometimes it's distracting when you need to be focusing on where your bait is and not out off the bank. Good fish.
All right, let's talk about the good old-fashioned Texas rig. As far as the rod, I tend to lean towards a 7'3". It's just a good all-around purpose rod. So 7'3" to 7'4" is something that I've kind of settled on over the years. I mean, I have used a 7 and it works, but something that's medium heavy, but more on the heavier side. I want something with a little bit of tip. This is a Virtus Jewel Acura Series rod. This is their 7'3" heavy, their big worm rod. This has been a great rod for doing this technique. It's got a little bit of tip, but it's got plenty of backbone. If you're a person that likes a 7'6", this rod right here is another really good rod that I've been playing around with. This is the Virtus Blue Diamond. This is their flip pitch, 7'6", heavy, moderate. It's you're not supposed to be seeing that, but that's a good little swim bait. Anyway, that works if you like a little bit longer rod. So 7 foot to 7'6", but I kind of tend to lean towards the 7'3". But there's a couple things about the Texas rig tube. Now, I've had a lot of problems in the past missing fish, and the reason being is there's a lot of plastic right here, folks. And that plastic will slide down the hook on the hook set and it will ball up. It'll just get all balled up in here. We'll see, let's show you the hook here. It'll slide down and get balled up like this and you miss the fish. It covers the hook point a lot of times. So one of the things that is most important with rigging a tube is how you rig that tube. You don't want to go in like you would a normal soft plastic bait. So normally we come in here about, I don't know, a little over 1/4 inch. We go all the way in here like this and we slide her up. We get right up there on the hook. We cover the eye so it looks nice and sneaky. And what happens, you lose that gap kind of. It doesn't hold it up. So when you set the hook, this thing wants to slide down like that and it wants to ball up. So you're going to run into that. So this is something that I was watching a video with Bill Lowen, and Bill Lowen's notorious for flipping a tube. He's one of the best shallow water anglers in the business, and he's really good on a tube. And what he talked about was just going in slightly. You know, you don't go in very far, like maybe 1/8 of an inch. Come up here, and you want to leave the eye exposed like that. What that does is that makes that tube grab on that bin, and you're much less likely, the tube's much less likely of sliding down and getting balled up. Another key thing is you want this part of your hook to lay flat. So what a lot of times these EWG hooks, I'll tell you about this hook in a second, but these EWG hooks, they bend back in. So what I'll do is I'll take pliers and I'll just kind of straighten this out. So you're just going to expose this like you normally would. Come in here like this. You want to get it nice and straight and just barely expose it like that. See how that's going back in? I would take pliers and pull that up and straighten it up. Those two things right there are going to allow you to catch more fish. So leave that eye exposed, make that hook point, come back up and lay flat on the back of the tube, and you're going to catch a lot more fish.
There he is. Decent fish. Oh yeah, that's a nice fish. It's out here a lot deeper. That's a nice one. On that old tube. Yeah, buddy. There we go. Look at that solid fish, folks. Boys and girls, that's a nice fish. Stick him with that tube, man. I put the bait feel on there. I don't know if it made a difference, but it's a green pumpkin with a little bit of purple. It's just a 4-inch flipping tube. It's nice and soft. You know, they get this in their mouth, they kind of hold on to it. Got that 3/0 owner hook. And just a good solid fish there. Whew.
The hook I've been using lately is made by Owner. It's the cutting point. I like a 4/0 hook on the 4-inch flipping tube. just an EW style hook. This is a little bit beefier hook, and it's got the nice gap to it. I don't like to peg the weight, and the reason being is I like that freedom. This tube's got a lot of gliding action. When you're fishing it around brush or whatever and it falls out of the brush, the weight kind of comes down and the tube just does its nice little tantalizing thing. I like the freedom. I mean, you can certainly peg it, and you know, if you're like flipping bushes, which this is an excellent bait in the bushes. Several times I've been on Kentucky Lake when the water's like 360, 361 like that, flipping bushes with a tube, like a half-ounce weight in a tube. Excellent. Punching mats, excellent for punching mats, but just Texas rig like this works great. But I tend to leave this loose. It just gives this bait a lot more action. There's times when you can kind of pop it up, this thing falls down, the weight, you know, the weight slides down your line, tube just kind of comes down like that. So that's the way I do the Texas rig. Leave it in the comment section. Am I missing something? How do you guys rig up your tube? There he is.
Tube bass. All right. All over my live scope. There we go. Go, man. Tube in the grill. Just poking around on these points. Just fishing some of these deeper banks, points. Just mixing it up, man. Just kind of junk fishing 101. Tube, man. Tube don't get enough love. It's pretty sneaky. These fish have been pressured, but threw it right on top of them and just went down and sucked it up like it was supposed to.
The second way I like to rig a tube is by far my favorite way to rig a tube. And people that have followed my channel know that I fish this technique quite a bit. And it is called the stupid tube. I don't know why it's called the stupid tube. It's just the way it is, because it's not stupid. It's pretty smart, actually. You do wrong if you're not throwing it. It's sneaky. It's finessey. It's just something that is not talked about. It's fished quite a bit, but not very many people talk about it. But we talk about it on this channel. It involves this right here. It's a jig head. It's a unique kind of jig head. Got round lead. It's got kind of an EWG style hook. I'll also bend that hook out. But let me show you how to rig that up. It's very simple. So first thing is, you got your tube. You want to hold it up vertical, and you want to get all these little tentacles down to the side, so you have an exposed cavity. You don't want to suck any of those tentacles up in the tube when you are rigging it. So you just take your hook and you want to go inside the cavity of the tube, and I try to hold the tube vertical as much as possible, and you just work that tube down, work this jig head down inside the tube, and you want to get to where you're about 1/4 inch from the head. 1/4 inch leaves room for the actual lead part of the head inside of the tube, and you want to run your hook out about right there. Still want to try to hold it vertical if you can. So that's what we're looking at right there. And once you get to this point, I like to grab the hook point, and I want to put a little bit of human lubricant in there. Just spit a little bit of saliva goes a long way. You slide her down in there. Just keep on pulling it. You get to this point right here, and I want to take my fingers right here, 2 fingers, and I want to push that line tie through. See how that line tie popped out? Okay. And then you're just exposing it. Just come right back up here, go in like everything else, and there's a stupid tube. It's a little bit crooked, but you understand. Now see how that hook point's facing up a little bit? I want to bend it up just a little bit more. Actually facing down a little bit. I want to bend it up a little bit more, because you want that thing to not go back into the tube. This is something, you guys that fish with live scope, I've been experimenting with this live scope, and it's deadly. There's times where the fish will ignore your standard baits, even something big like this burrito. You know, they'll ignore the burrito, they'll ignore the chad shad, a Ned head, a shaky head, a jig or whatever. But there's something about this tube, the way it falls. It's got that spiraling action. I've caught a lot of good fish after throwing more traditional baits, and they've ignored those traditional baits, and I pick up this tube and I catch them. Here's a little clip of, this is a point that I fished a lot over the years, and these fish are beat up, and I take this tube and I catch some fish that wouldn't bite on anything else. So for like pressured fish, really finicky fish that are in a bad mood, this is something that will catch those fish.
cool. Saw a little bit of movement on the bottom there. These are all just nice solid fish. Get up in here. Thank you for playing. It's fun. Tube. What's the deal? These fish have been really pressured. And, you know, just showing them something different. Shaky head. I mean, they see a lot of shaky heads. They don't see a lot of tubes, though. So just keep an open mind and do a little experimentation. That tube has seen better days. I mean, caught quite a few quality fish on that thing.
Yep.
Got it. They're responding to this pretty good. They're really pressured fish. Yeah. Hercules, Hercules. Good fish. There we go. Man, that's fun, guys. That is fun. Junk fishing 101, man. Just point hopping. We're gonna go look at a couple more points here before too long, before it gets dark, but it's fun. These fish really start getting out here, and you got to start checking these spots. Just check your home lake spots you've caught them before in the summertime. I mean, start looking at them. The bluegill spawn is, the main bluegill spawn's kind of winding down. I mean, the bluegill spawn that correlates with the bass spawn. You know, it's post spawn, early summer. And that's when your bluegill beds are usually the best. And they, you know, they spawn multiple times a year, so it's always good to check around a new and a full moon. But it seems like that bluegill spawn in May is really probably the best one. And that's kind of keeps those fish shallow. And after that, the fish kind of start slowly moving out. Not all fish, but that's a good time to start looking for that. And this little crocodigator tube rigged with a stupid head is, man, it's an excellent way to catch those fish, because these fish are pressured, you know. I'm not the only one that finds these spots by any means.
Those are my two favorite ways to rig a tube, but when should you fish one over the other? In heavy cover, I tend to lean towards this Texas rig, and I also like the Texas rig in the grass. It comes through the grass really good. You got this bullet weight, it's just got a little bit more action. So the Texas rig is gonna excel over the stupid tube in heavy cover and grass. Now the stupid tube is excellent for casting, making long casts, and it's got that more spiral. The Texas rig still has that spiral, but the stupid tube, it allows the bait to spiral even more. Now this will still work really good around sparse cover, and you can flip it in the heavy stuff. It doesn't work good around the grass. It's got this vertical line tie. You know, that's going to catch grass. It just has a tendency to catch grass. Where it really excels is on rock. Kentucky Lake, Bull Shows, Table Rock, any lake that's got that kind of rocky bottom, this sucker excels over the Texas rig. As you're pulling this bait, the rubber grabs the bottom and it has a tendency to do this. So it looks just like a crawfish in a defensive position. It also looks like a smaller bluegill. It's just got the right profile. So when I'm encountering that kind of cover, even pole timber, you know, if you're flipping around pole timber, the sucker falls down and kind of spirals along the timber, and it'll actually, if you freestyle it, free spool it, it'll bang into the pole timber as it's falling. But rocky terrain, this thing's going to excel. Grass, punching, heavy cover, you're going to want to go more towards your Texas rig.
The bite. Tube. Tube has been good to me. That old tube has been good to me. That fish is strong, man. It's going up again. Come here, buddy. And when they get that tube, they get it. Look at that. right in the snoot. It's fun.
When I'm flipping this Texas rig tube, I'm going with 17-pound tests. You could go 15, you could go 20, but 17 is a happy medium. I like a little bit heavier line because you're going to be throwing this thing into some pretty gnarly stuff, and you need that thickness just to get the fish out. If I'm punching it, I'm going 50-pound braid, maybe 65, but typically 50. On the stupid tube, 15-pound test seems to be perfect. That's a light enough line that allows this bait plenty of action. You could go 12. I mean, 12 would give it a little more action. I don't think you'd have a problem, especially if you're just fishing more open water. If you are fishing an area that has, you know, some brush mixed in with some stumps and stuff, I think 15-pound is perfect. I've never broken off a fish on 15-pound test, so I just have a lot of confidence in 15-pound test with this stupid tube. So that's a wrap, folks. I'll leave links to all the products used in this video in the description box. Man, go try a tube. It's old, it's been around forever, but it works just as good as it ever has. A lot of cool colors in the Crocagator lineup. Just remember, keep it in your hand, cover water, and you'll gain confidence with it. It's something that appeals to fish of all different sizes, and it's one of my favorite ways to catch fish when they're acting just a little bit funky. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give me a thumbs up if you appreciate this content. Till next time.
Just showing them something different. Shaky head. I mean, they see a lot of shaky heads. They don't see a lot of tubes though. So just keep an open mind and do a little experimentation. That tube has seen better days. I mean, caught quite a few quality fish on that thing. So give me a thumbs up if you appreciate the content. And do not forget to subscribe to the channel. And these tubes are made by Crocagator. Crocagator's got a bunch of really cool tube colors. This is a green pumpkin with a little bit of purple in there. It's been one of my favorite colors. You can check them out at Baitworks. Use THM10 code and get 10% off your first order, or just go straight to Crocagator and tell Joey I said hi. Great little tube, man. Caught a lot of fish on this little tube.